back to Cameron and Mace. Stat Baby is the moderator over there. She introduced the story, and she wanted Cameron and Mace to basically add any more content to the story. Mace sort of just said, hey, you know, whatever. But it just seemed like Cameron took the opportunity to talk about his displeasure with Chad Johnson, or Chad Ochocinco, however y'all want to label Chad Johnson. I call him Chad Johnson. You know, you guys call him Chad Ochocinco, whatever. So basically, Cameron talked about his displeasure with Chad Johnson, basically displaying a story. And I remember him talking about this, I think it's like 3-4 years, maybe 3 years ago, in the beginning stages of It Is What It Is. You know, Cameron, Mace, you know, let the world know that they wanted to do a sports talk show. It started off funded by Cameron and Mace. They got it out the mud. They got it out the hustle. You know, there was a lot of people in the sports entertainment media that wasn't, you know, that thought that this was going to be a fad. They didn't take it too seriously, however you want to label it. Cameron, you know, they started it out. They started from the bottom. Now they're here. And they talked about, Cameron talked about a time he was trying to recruit Chad Johnson. And at that particular time, Chad Johnson was bouncing from network to network. I think his most longevity when you're talking about a network was with ESPN2. He did, you know, he had a good stint with ESPN2. He was, you know, here and there with the NFL Network. He was here and there with Fox Sports 1. And, you know, Cameron, you know, as well as, you know, Chad Johnson on the reality TV front, he was with his fiance at the time. Now they're no longer together. And he was doing his spin there, you know, with her storyline in reality TV. So when Cameron came up to Chad Johnson, he basically said, hey, look, we're coming up with this concept. We thought that maybe you want to contribute to this concept, to It Is What It Is. Chad Johnson basically low-key turned it down. Basically, well, either low-key turned it down or he was semi-interested in it. Basically told Cameron he needed to talk to his agent. And Cameron was going like, well, wait a minute, I'm talking to you. Why can't me and you do, you know, why can't we talk about it? Now, to me, at that particular time, and I'm stepping towards Chad Johnson. If he wasn't that serious, you didn't believe in the project, then maybe you could have been a little bit more professional and saying, hey, look, I appreciate the opportunity, but, you know, I don't think that's going to be for me. And, you know, wash your hands of it. You know, Cameron would have said, okay, you know, at least you're being respectable. At least you're, you know, acknowledging that you know, this may not be for you. And then y'all go y'all separate ways. Maybe at some other point when Cameron and Mace prove it is what it is, which it is what it is, you know, is a good platform, which is a great platform. It's doing crazy numbers. All right. But, you know, maybe if Chad Johnson wanted to, you know, go back to that platform, say, hey, look, I was wrong about it. You saw the vision before I did, you know, something like that. You know, Cameron would have probably entertained him coming back to It Is What It Is, not as a contributor, but, you know, someone that want to come on the show, you know, and just talk, you know, just chop it up. All right. But Cameron took that as a disrespectful, he took that as a diss. Either Cameron thought that Chad Johnson didn't think that this was serious enough. And then what made matters worse, after the success of It Is What It Is, Chad Johnson took to social media and said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do it even better than what Cameron and Mace is doing." All right. And Cameron and Mace took that as a disrespectful, manner, because they're looking at it like this. We just now started it. First of all, we gave you an opportunity to join us. All right. And then now since we have proven ourselves, now you're pitting us against you, when technically, you're not trying to, you don't want no competition with Fox Sports 1, ESPN, the NFL Network, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith, Marcellus Wiley. A lot of these guys are now, Jason Whitlock. A lot of these guys are going to YouTube instead of trying to link up to some big time network. Some of these guys, like Stephen A. Smith, Cam Newton, Stephen A. Smith, Cam Newton, Shannon Sharp, they're doing both. They're doing the network and they're doing their own thing on their YouTube channel. And Cameron and Mace is looking at it like, yo, you're not pitting yourself against those cats. You're not, saying that you want to be better than ESPN and Fox. You're not saying that you want to be better than Cam Newton and Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith. You coming directly to the source. You're coming directly at us. All right. So they took it at that. They even took that as disrespect. All right. So you have to understand Cameron's point of view, why he is still bitter or upset with Chad Johnson. And to be perfect, and he said some things about Chad Johnson on their show. It got back to Nightcap. Chad Johnson responded by saying, "Hey, look, I'm outside. You can catch me outside. I'm coming to your hometown, Harlem. You know where I eat at. I'm going to this restaurant. Here's the Addy. I mean, if I love you guys, but hey, if you want to, settle this, in discussions or in a different way, this is where I'm going to be at." I felt like Chad Johnson should have been the bigger person and, said, "Hey, look, to each his own. Maybe, y'all didn't like me discussing that topic with Stephen A. Smith. And maybe you took it the wrong way, Cameron, when I said, hey, thanks, but, I don't want to do that. If you took that as disrespect, he should have, maybe should have apologized or smooth things over, and when you're dealing with egos, massive egos like Cameron, Chad Johnson, you're probably not going to get that approach from either or. All right. So, got back to Cameron. Cameron basically said, basically called Chad Johnson, he assaults women. All right. He talked about the story of Chad Johnson getting into a dispute with another female that he was involved in, and this was years back. And I really think that incident pretty much stopped his career as a professional football player. He got relieved of his duties with the Miami Dolphins, and he could never get back on another team. He did have some time with New England, but other than that, it was pretty much over for Chad Johnson as a professional athlete. And then he was getting older as well. Couldn't lock on to life after football, maybe as an assistant coach, or maybe, be a college coach, or, a lower level college coach. He didn't get those opportunities. Like I said earlier in this presentation, he was bouncing around from network to network, couldn't really get into where he could fit in. And, luckily Shannon Sharp threw a life preserver to Chad Johnson, because if, Shannon Sharp didn't give him the opportunity to not only do Nightcap, but he's also a partner to Nightcap. Nightcap is owned and operated not only with Shannon Sharp, but with Chad Johnson. If, Shannon Sharp didn't throw that life preserver out there, Chad Johnson will be floating around right about now. Okay. And it kind of reminds me of when, Shannon Sharp did him a solid. But it also kind of reminds me because I feel like Shannon Sharp sees a lot of him in Chad Johnson when Shannon Sharp was floating around. After his incident with CBS Sports let go of Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp was floating around like similar to Chad Johnson. He was, on Fox at one point, was on NFL Network, was on ESPN, but he just couldn't get into where he fit in because of his little situation with CBS Sports, that no network wanted to touch him. And at that particular time, YouTube wasn't in the eyes of these social media, these sports influencers at that time. All right. He did try to do Twitch. Shannon Sharp did try to do Twitch. But if it wasn't for Skip Bayless throwing Shannon Sharp a lifeline to join him on his new show, Undisputed, on Fox Sports 1, Shannon Sharp will be floating around. Who knows? Maybe we don't get this version of Shannon Sharp that we're getting right now. Okay. So fast forward to today, if Shannon Sharp didn't give Chad Johnson the opportunity, who knows what Chad Johnson will be doing right now. All right. So back to this story. I don't know what Chad Johnson is going to say as far as, is he going to give Cameron the same response that he gave Cameron the last time till we get to this point, or will cooler heads prevail? Egos are being massaged, and maybe Chad Johnson get a second opportunity to make to be professional, saying, "Hey, look, I didn't mean nothing behind it. If you took it like I was trying to call you out or trying to, say that, we could get physical with this. Look, I was just trying to, meet up with you." And I think ultimately Chad Johnson wanted to meet up with Cameron, and maybe they collaborate. He does an interview for Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson do an interview with Cameron, similar to what Shannon Sharp did with Mike Epps 2 years back on Super Bowl weekend, or the NBA All-Star week. I seem to forget, but Mike Epps had an issue with Shannon Sharp with the Cat Williams interview, and that ended up like a social media tussle. And when the two met up, and maybe they planned and orchestrated this in the background, and none of us knew about it, but when they met up, Mike Epps was on Club Shay Shay. Okay, so maybe Chad Johnson saw an opportunity there, like, hey, if I can meet up with Cameron, we can just squash our differences, and maybe I can do some content with It Is What It Is, and Cameron or It Is What It Is can do some content with Nightcap. We should work together instead of divide and conquer. But maybe that was playing in the background of Chad Johnson's thought process, and maybe Chad Johnson didn't orchestrate it the best way. So, yeah. So that's pretty much it on that topic. If anybody comes in, they want to talk about it, fine and dandy. Matter of fact, let me look at my comments, man. I haven't been on the comment front in a minute. Okay. All right. So yeah, just comment below. Also, just taking the time out. You don't necessarily have to do this, but if you want to super chat me, I got different ways you can do it. Okay. $1 for a shout out. $2. No, super chat me, $1 for a shout out. $2 you can ask me a question of anything, long as it's not weird. $5 for promotion, and 10 or more for just the love for the game. You can still comment, you can still ask me a question on those things. But yeah. So I'm moving on. I'm moving on from that. And then this Cameron and Jim Jones thing, I think that was Charlemagne the God being a little messy, because Cameron is out there with his issues with Chad Johnson. Cameron talking about he wants to box Jim Jones, you know, and wanted Floyd Mayweather to support a celebrity boxing event with Jim Jones and Cameron. I don't think that's going to happen. Not because Cameron is scared of Jim Jones or Jim Jones is scared of Cameron. It's just, when you look at it, it sounds kind of desperate to me. It sounds like Jim Jones want to make some money off of this. And, maybe Jim Jones will entertain this, but I don't think Cameron's going to entertain it. One, Cameron's not a boxer. And two,